We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. MashaAllah, we're here for a brand new season, and thank you for joining us on our show. As you know, this is a live show. We do take in your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, we don't care where you're calling from, or your name, or what topic it is, or if you find the topic taboo or silly, or you think we're going to misunderstand your question. There is no question which is silly. There is no question which is too taboo. It is our duty to go and find the answers for you. So if you have a question, send them in via the WhatsApp, send them in via the email, or alternatively, you could call us, and me and the Sheikh will be more than happy to assist you with your call. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Mar. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, Monday we were discussing on Hajj, and we were looking at different ahkam to do with Hajj. So we did mention a little bit on about performing Hajj on behalf of the marhum. What about performing Hajj on behalf of the Ahlul Bayt? Is this acceptable?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. It is permissible in the mustahab Hajj, the Hajj in which is not the wajib and the as known as Hajjat al-Islam, your first Hajj, in which you become mustati' and has to basically go for the Hajj and perform the a'mal for yourself only because it's a wajib aini on this Hajj. For the mustahab Hajj, yes, you can actually make the niyyah and the intention of the Imams alayhim as-salam, the ma'asumeen, and the prophets and their grandsons, for example, even your own mu'mineen or the marhumeen as well, with this intention in the Hajj. That should be absolutely fine. And of course the thawab will be written for you who did these a'mal of Hajj, and for those who you have mentioned, you made the intention for.
Sheikhna, if one borrows money and can pay it back with ease, okay, you can say in the correct time, that's been allocated for the loan and so forth. So if someone has the opportunity to borrow money and pay it back on time, does Hajj become wajib upon that person because he has access to this extra wealth? I believe His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah, Sayyid Sistani Hafadullah, he discusses this, doesn't he?
Yes, indeed. He would mention that if the borrowed money is to be paid or due in a long term, let's say you borrow £5,000 for your Hajj, your own wajib Hajj, and you want to pay it. You want to pay it back in 5 to 10 years' time, let's say. So that's the long duration definition, basically. So in 5 years' time, I'll pay, let's say, £1,000 a year to cover basically £5,000 in 5 years of this borrowed money. In this case, the Sayyid says, yes, Hajj becomes obligatory and wajib on this individual. Because it's going to be paid long time. So, and of course, reasonably, he wouldn't be affected with this £5,000 borrowed money. So he can easily pay them without any issue, without even, for example, borrowing a second loan to pay this first loan. So if it's an easy way of paying the installments without any issue, then Hajj becomes wajib on this individual. However, Ayatollah Shirazi would not agree and say that the borrowed money would not make the Hajj wajib on this individual, even if it was able for him to pay this borrowed money afterwards. Let's say we said £5,000, he can pay it in 5 months. So he comes back, he goes back to works for 5 months, and he can pay it in 5 months. No, the Sayyid says you must basically become mustati' without borrowing the money. It doesn't make the wajib for you to go to Hajj.
See, excellent, very interesting. Sheikh, what is greater? Me performing Hajj, or maybe me giving that money that would cost me for Hajj, the expenses, to charity?
Well, it is mustahab to perform Hajj every year. We have a number of hadith and narrations which mentions the great rewards and thawab of the one who goes to Hajj. For example, somebody who goes to Hajj every year, he won't face poverty, for example. His rizq will be more and more, will increase the sustenance and rizq. Many hadith speaks about the thawab of the Hajj. Although the paying to the charity also has a thawab, but it seems to be that the thawab of the Hajj would be greater than donating this amount to a charity, for example.
Excellent. Sheikh, as you know, we get emails coming in all the time from our viewers, mashallah, and we do encourage our viewers to email us with their questions. Now we have an email here saying that a young single man has become capable to perform Hajj. He's also thinking about marriage. Now, if he goes for Hajj, his marriage ceremony will be delayed for a while. Which of the two is preferable, marriage or pilgrimage? This person also stated that I am a muqallid of Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani. So here we have an individual. Now it says here that the marriage ceremony will be delayed, so possibly he's already engaged or so forth. Now, maybe it's finances or maybe it's time, but it seems to be one or the other, or the marriage will be delayed if he goes to Hajj. According to Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, what is this young man to do?
The Sayyid mentions that he should perform Hajj as an obligation. The Hajj is wajib, he must fulfill this requirement. Some ulama would argue that if he was in a very difficult situation, that he might fall into haram, commit na'udhu billah, haram, then they would mention that maybe they can this individual can actually marry instead of going to Hajj. So it depends on the ulama, the fuqaha that are available and the ones who you follow to see your circumstances and conditions. Do they meet this Shari'i requirements or they don't meet?
I see. Sheikh, we have this issue almost every year when it comes to the moon sighting and also to do with the dates of the Islamic calendar. Now, sometimes, and this has happened many times actually, where one school of thought will say that tomorrow is the first of the Hijjah, and then the Jafri school of thought will say it is on another day, maybe before or after. So, in accordance to the Hajj rituals, what are we supposed to do when we do not determine this day to be the first of the Hijjah? As Shi'i, what are we to do?
If it's not possible to perform the Hajj according to the Shia sighting, which is of course the most accurate and correct sighting compared to the non-Shia sighting, as we see every year there's a difference. But however, if not, then we can follow the non-Shia sighting. In other words, we have to do Hajj with them because we have no choice. And the Hajj would be valid as well. And that's what we do every year. I mean, our brothers who go and sisters who go to Hajj from the Shia community there, they do the Hajj with the non-Shia, the Arafat, in Mina, Muzdalifah, they come back to the Haram and so forth. All the Amal, they do it with the non-Shia. So, inshallah, the Hajj would be valid.
Shaykhna, what is the awarded or granted Hajj?
It is when somebody pays you the expenses of the Hajj. So let's say if somebody is poor who cannot go to Hajj at all due to his financial difficulty, then somebody comes and says, I'll pay you for the cost of the Hajj to the group.
Like a sponsorship.
Exactly. So if somebody pays you the the expenses of the Hajj. Also, he pays the expenses of your family to buy food and drink, their daily expenses, because also you have to make sure that when you go to Hajj, your family, they have the means of bread and and drink and so forth. They don't become poor because you took all the money from them. So you have to make sure they have also the means to live for that period of time in which you are in Hajj. Then the Hajj becomes obligatory, wajib on this individual under these conditions. And of course, this is Hajjat al-Islam, as we say, the first Hajj. He becomes mustati' in this way by donating or basically paying or granting the Hajj, the cost of the Hajj to this poor individual. And if in future this poor man becomes rich, let's say, and he gets that money in which makes him mustati', there's no longer needs to do the Hajj again, because he already did it with the granted money for the Hajj.
And does Sayyid Sistani have the same fatwa, Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani? Because, you know, if there's an individual who someone like, you know, gives him money, sponsors him to go do Hajj, and he goes and does Hajj, and then later on he has, you know, he's made his own money to go, he becomes mustati' again. You know, according to Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, what does he say on this?
Likewise, he says that Hajj is not wajib on him again, because he already went to the Hajj with the gifted or granted money. So there's no need for this individual to go to Hajj again, because he gained his own money from his own profits or income, and now he's got money to go Hajj. No, he did it, khalas. You know, the Hajj is valid now. So no more Hajj, wajib Hajj required. So mustahab, yes, you know, he's more than happy to go for a mustahab Hajj, great, from as a niyaba from his grandparents, deceased ones, from the Imams alayhi salam, and so forth. But for that wajib Hujjat Islam, that's all done, and no required to go for wajib Hajj.
Awesome. And it might be a good idea even if he sponsors someone to go and do Hajj, you know, considering he received such a sponsorship. Shaykhna, we were discussing before the show as well the next question, and that was in regards to praying Salah in Mecca. As you are aware that, you know, the Masjid Haram and also, you know, the Mosque of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are run by, you know, Sunni schools of thought. According to Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, are we allowed to pray in congregation with these, with our fellow brothers in Islam?
Sayyid Sistani mentions that in this way, in this method, it is permissible. How? He says that you pray with them, but you recite the Hamd and Surah yourself. So basically, you make the intention of being furada.
I see.
The movements are with them. Because the problem is, if you're in Masjid al-Haram and the adhan is called, you have no choice. You can't leave, because people are coming in thousands to perform the Salah Jama'ah. So you can't leave, you can't sit down, so you have to stand up with them and perform some kind of, you know, these movements of ruku' and sujood.
It's difficult.
So you have to basically pray. You have no choice.
And you have religious police as well.
Yes, so basically you have to pray furada and move up and down with them, you know, ruku' sujood with them. That should be fine in this way, of course.
I see. But we were also discussing, Shaykhna, as well, that some of the adhan times may be different as well. So where in the Masjid Haram or in the Mosque of Rasulullah in Medina, let's say Maghrib, the Maghrib adhan has gone, it's time to pray Maghrib, but it's not the Shia Maghrib time. We still have got 10 minutes, 15 minutes left till it is our Maghrib time. So what happens there in that congregation? Do we join? Do we not join? Can we pray that congregation and then we don't have to worry about Maghrib? Or
if you can leave the place, okay, best thing is to leave the place and go back to your hotel or and perform the salah there, or come back and perform it after they finish the jama'ah. But because it's not the time of your maghrib, or you pray it as qada maghrib, if you have qada, you pray it as qada maghrib, and so forth. Let me mention a hadith from Imam Abi Abdullah as-Sadiq alayhi salam. A man says that I went Hajj with Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam and we reached the place. حججت مع أبي عبد الله الصادق عليه السلام فلما صرنا في بعض الطريق صعد على جبل فأشرف فنظر إلى الناس. Imam was على كل حال on his way towards, let's say, Arafat or Mina, somewhere close to Mecca, in these holy places. So the Imam, he arrived at the place and he went up on a mountain to see the Hujjaj, thousands of Hujjaj. And when he studied the history of the Hajj and the number of the Hujjaj, you'll be amazed and to see how in those difficult times when there were no transport, no hotels, VIP accommodations and so forth, that in one occasion, in the time of the Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, the narration says, and it's a non-Shia narrator who says to the Imam that there are 4 million Hujjaj on this year.
MashaAllah.
4.5 million.
That's almost the same as today.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Today we have the max 3 million. The max.
Oh, wow, so it's even more than today.
Usually it's 2 million, 2.5.
Okay.
Max is 3 million. And still we have accidents, people fall from the bridge,
issues,
stampede and so forth. But see how they managed the Hajj in that time. 4 million without any tools, without any technology, without any cameras. So we can actually have Hajj even more in this time, especially even up to 10 million.
Yes.
According to the late Muhammad Shirazi rahmatullah alayhi. He suggests that to have 10 million, why not? Or even more. Let's build more hotels and more accommodations.
Yeah.
So in those times they were able to manage this great number of Hujjaj. So the Imam alayhi salam, he went up on the mountain and he looked at the people, the Hujjaj. Then he said, very important statement from the Imam alayhi salam, فقال ما أكثر الضجيج وأقل الحجيج. He said, look, how many are the the noises of the Hujjaj, because usually the Hujjaj would make noises, takbir, tasbih and so forth. So how much they are making noises, or how much they are noisy. But where are the Hajjij? How less the Hajjij or the Hujjaj are. You can hear lots of noises, 3 million, 4 million, but how many of them are real Hujjaj, real Hajj, that fulfills Allah's obligation, that pleases the Imam of their time? Then one of the companions of the Imam alayhi salam, with the name of Dawood al-Riqi, one of the Imam's companions and narrators, he says, I asked the Imam, Ya ibn Rasulillah, هل يستجيب الله دعاء هذا الجمع الذي أرى? Would Allah answer the call of those who we see now, the Hujjaj? The Imam alayhi salam responded, this is the response to praying behind a non-Shia Imam in the Haram, the Imam of the Haram Mecca as they call him. ويحك يا أبا سليمان إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به. Allah would not forgive those who make or participate with Allah, someone else, would do shirk with Allah, someone else. Then the Imam says, الجاحد لولاية علي عليه السلام كعابد وثن. The one who is stubborn, who insists on rejecting, refusing, denying the wilayah of Ali alayhi salam is like the one who worships idol. See, the Imam says, he brings them to this level. What's the difference between, rejecting Ali alayhi salam and you're stubborn on it and you insist on it, while somebody else is worshipping an idol? So the true Hajj, the true A'mal would be accepted from those who follow Ali alayhi salam and accept him as Imam, مفترض الطاعة. Otherwise, the Imam says كعابد وثن. So it's important that we basically understand these facts from the holy narrations, that the true Hajj is accepted from those who follow Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. And of course, inshallah, the time will come, inshallah, with the dhuhur of the Imam al-Zaman Ajjallah Farajuh Sharif, in which we will have the Hajj on the actual days, inshallah, and those who will lead the prayer would be also people who follow Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, if not Ahlul Bayt themselves, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. Shaykhna, another question from the email. I am a student studying for exams, and if my exam schedule conflicts with the timing of the Hajj, is it permissible for me to postpone the Hajj that year, especially if my exams are very, very important? I am a Muqallid of Sayyid Sistani.
Well, the Sayyid mentions that if he is sure that he will be able to perform the Hajj in the following year, it is permissible for him to postpone it. So he must be sure that if I don't go to Hajj and stay and do my exams and so forth, but I'm sure that I can actually keep the savings of money and keep it for next year, and I can go next year, that's fine. Otherwise, the Sayyid mentions that it is not permissible. In other words, he must go to Hajj and leave his study because it's wajib, because he can't afford to go Hajj next year. But he says, على كل حال, the one should look at his condition. If it's unbearable, for example, in terms of going to Hajj, he's got, let's say he's on his last final exams and final year of study, and he'll be graduated, for example. It's unbearable. Then the Sayyid says it is not obligatory on him to perform Hajj that year. So you have to see your conditions.
I see.
And to meet these Shar'i rules.
Excellent. We're going to go to a short break now, inshallah. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Group, out of respect to its audience, wants to be available anytime, anywhere. Our worldwide viewers, and in particular North America, can watch our channels through Roku TV setup box. To download our Roku app, follow these simple steps. Go onto the menu and select streaming channels, and then choose the category religious. Then you can find Imam Hussein TV from the list. Now choose add channel and then select OK. Done. Now you can find Imam Hussein TV in your home screen and watch all of our channels online.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. This is a live show, so if you have any questions you'd like to ask in regards to Islamic law, please send in your questions via the WhatsApp, email, or alternatively give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to discuss your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
So we were discussing in regards to Hajj and so forth. If I may, with your permission, go to the WhatsApp questions, because we have some people sending some questions in. The first question is, in certain years, the Saudi government announces the beginning month of the Hajj on a day different than the Shia. In a situation where we have no option except to perform our Hajj Amal according to these days, is my Hajj valid?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, the Hajj Amal will be valid, inshallah ta'ala, if one cannot actually go to observe the actual day in which the Shia have actually seen the sighting of the moon and so forth, or do the wuquf ittirari, the compulsory standing, because sometimes you have to go to, let's say, the Mina or the Mash'ar, stand there for a few minutes and then go to the A'mal. If you can't do all these things, you can't go to Arafah next day. Arafah basically is empty the next day. If it's our own day of Arafah, actual day of Arafah, you can't go. There is a hardship, there's a difficulty observing the actual day. Then, of course, as I've said previously, you can join the other Muslims, and inshallah the Hajj will be valid, inshallah.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, is it permissible for me to perform the obligatory niyaba Hajj for more than one person?
No, the wajib Hajj only should be done by yourself and for yourself. This is your wajib aini Hajj. Hajjatul Islam is only to be done by yourself and nobody else.
Ahsant. Shaykhna, if one is going on a business trip to Saudi Arabia, mashallah, Saudi Arabia, but plenty of business goes on there. If I go, let's say, for example, Jeddah or Riyadh or one of the main cities in Saudi Arabia for business purposes, and then while I'm doing my business, conducting my business, I make the wealth which will allow me to perform Hajj. Am I compelled to do Hajj there and then? So let's say maybe a month before Dhul Hijjah or a couple of weeks before Dhul Hijjah, I'm there, I'm doing my business, conducting my business, and suddenly, mashallah, I've completed my business and I've got a bonus or this or that. I've got wealth now, I've become mustati in a way. Am I compelled to go and do Hajj? And this is according to Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, Hafidhullah. What did he have to say about this?
Yes, indeed. If you acquired some, let's say, wealth or profits from your business, and you were close by to Mecca, you were in Jeddah, as you mentioned, or Medina, or Ta'if, or Riyadh, and now you have some money in your hand in which will make you mustati'. That's important. Capable of performing the Hajj rituals and paying all the costs, in return costs, all the way. Then, of course, you have to go and perform the Hajj. As you mentioned, just a few weeks before the Hajj in Shawwal, the Qa'dah, for example. Yeah. You have to go for the Hajj. The Sayyid mentions, even if this individual, let's say he went back to his homeland, let's say India, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, and after 1 or 2 years, he gained wealth again. He doesn't need to actually go back to Hajj and do the Hajjatul Islam, the Wajib Hajj, because he already did it when he was close by to the city of Mecca, and he became mustati' when he was in Arabia. So, as long as you have done Hajjatul Islam, then there's no need to do it again.
I see. Excellent. Shaykhna, if a Musalli develops a doubt, and it's a valid doubt as well, should he abandon the Salah and start again? Or should he complete the Salah and then repeat it?
You see, it is not permissible to invalid the Salah for no reason, unless stated in the Masail Shar'iyyah. And that's why we encourage the brothers and sisters to revise and read the Ahkam about the doubts and the shukuk. I think we mentioned some of them in the previous months of year,
Season 2
1 or 2 year, about the
Season 2.
shakiyat, shukuk as-salah, and doubts. So it's important the one to go back and revise and read out these, that where can I actually fix my salah if I'm in doubt? I have shak between the first and second rak'ah. Is it valid? I have shak between the second and third rak'ah. Is it valid? What can I do now? I have shak doubt between the third and the fourth rak'ah. What can I do now? Best thing for the one is to go back to the Risala Amaliyah of his marja and to try to memorize these. So when you are in salah, you don't actually invalid your salah and basically committing such sin. It's not worth it. You're inside the ibadah. You don't want to ruin your ibadah by basically making this salah batil.
I see.
So best thing to learn these ahkam.
Inshallah, or actually complete the prayer and then look back at it and then go back to the Risala and check, my doubt, was it valid or not, and then maybe repeat it, inshallah. But I'm sure the viewers, the brothers and sisters are very, very conscious of their salah and very focused, inshallah. They don't make mistakes like that, but we are all human. Shaykhna, a question from the WhatsApp, and it is, on what events is it mandatory to perform Salat al-Ayat. So Salat al-Ayat is to do with the signs, normally it's to do with calamities, earthquakes, tornadoes, eclipse as well, lunar eclipse.
Yes, yes. Yeah, basically Salat al-Ayat becomes wajib if in one of these signs. Number one, the sun eclipse. Even if partial, so not complete eclipse. Number two is the moon eclipse.
The lunar
Again,
eclipse,
even
okay.
partial. You have to pray straight away. And usually they take about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
The whole eclipse.
So in this time,
yeah,
you have
in
to
that
pray
period.
within the time of eclipse.
Okay.
You pray Salat al-Ayat in a detail that mentioned previously, I think in the Ahkam SOS program, that how to pray it basically. Number three, earthquake. Even if no one fears from this minor earthquake, it is earthquake.
Okay.
You have to pray
So it's a light.
Salat al-Ayat. Number four, thunder, lightning, thunderbolt, and such like. The one also needs to pray Salat al-Ayat if most people fear them. So that's the condition. So if there's sometimes some thunders they don't have any.
Yeah, I mean
fear.
here in the UK we do
Depends
get
really.
some bad storms, but we don't really fear them because
Exactly. Yeah.
we got used to them.
I
Unfortunately,
think the ones in the US would be the most.
I see. With the
They have
lot of wind.
hurricanes and
yeah, they do.
and
They're
such
really
like.
bad storms sometimes. Ahsan. Sheikhna, another question here from the email. If it is permissible to use the zakah money, is it permissible to use the zakah money to sponsor students overseas to learn new sciences, in a bid to raise the Muslim level of achievement and ensure their progress in the field of manufacturing technology and other modern world sciences? So I guess this is in terms of helping Muslims become more academic, maybe help them in their future careers and so forth. Is this acceptable?
Yes, it is permissible to use the zakat money to sponsor students, Muslim students specifically. We have this shortage in the world. We want innovators, creators. We need people of special talents and innovation and creation that they can fill the gap instead of importing goods from the Far East and the Far West. We have to try to make them, produce them, specifically with regard to the medical field, for example. The Sayyid mentions that it becomes mandatory if the obligation depends on people in medical aspects, medical needs. We don't have to every time ask the governments in the West or in the Far East for medical equipments and so forth. We try to learn them and we make them. We produce these equipments and such like and medicines and try to fill this gap and what is known as self-sufficiency. So we depend on ourselves instead of depending on the East or the West. We try to fill this gap, and of course the Sayyid says it's like an obligation in some cases to fill this requirement. But of course, the Sayyid mentions also that for the zakat, we have to appreciate that should be paid according to the mentioned, where you have to pay it basically. The zakat payment, I think we mentioned eight categories who will receive the zakat. So we have to bear in mind that the zakat is not only for this purpose. So originally it goes back to these 8 or 9 aspects.
I see, excellent. Shaykhna, back to the WhatsApp, and is it permissible for a lady to use pills to cause menstruation so that she is not required to perform the daily prayers, fasting, etc.? Also, is it permissible to use medication to prevent the occurrence so that she is able to perform fasting and prayers and so forth? So, a situation here of a lady allowing a menstruation to occur and also to stopping it from occurring. And you could say maybe at times when it's not naturally upon herself to, either she should be having the menstruation, then she stops it so that she can pray and fast and so forth. And times where she's not menstruating and she has a pill to force herself to menstruate so she doesn't have to perform certain wajibat. Islamically speaking, is this acceptable?
Yes, it is permissible. She can actually delay or hasten the issue of the hayd, and there should be no problem at all.
Shaykhna, what is the ruling regarding someone who refuses to have his medical condition diagnosed or to receive emergency first aid, mainly because he does not like to, or due to difficulty, or because of fear?
Well, if his life basically depends on it, and to save him from a severe harm or even death, then he's obliged to actually comply with this procedure. So he needs to go and to check up and so forth and get the medical aids important for this individual to avoid losing his life or losing his limbs or, severe harm on his body just because he doesn't like to see medications or medical equipments and so forth. He needs to be treated to save his life. And that's compulsory wajib.
Ahsan. Just a quick reminder to the viewers, it's a live show. We do take in your questions. If you have any questions, send it to the WhatsApp or email, and I've got some right here. So Shaykhna, if you allow me some more questions from the WhatsApp. Can someone choose how to spend their khums on their own charitable actions?
You see, with regard to the khumus, the best thing is to go back to your marja', your alim, and ask for the permission. If you have any kind of, let's say, charitable organization, or for any purpose, you have some poor individuals, orphanage, and so forth. Best thing is to go back to your alim, to your marja', ask for permission. That's, Sayyidina, I have, or Shaykhna, I have, let's say, a charitable organization. I pay for the poor, for the orphans. So best thing is to ask for the ijazah to do so, to avoid, على كل حال, paying back again khumus.
Awesome. Shaykhna, is there any hadith of the Prophet or of the infallibles in regards to recommended acts before going to your maritable spouse? So before you go to your wife or the wife goes to the husband, any mustahabat acts that one can do?
In overall, the one should be in purity and tahara. In other words, wudu is fine for the one who wants to approach his spouse على كل حال to be in tahara and wudu. We have some dua on the first night of wedding, the wedding night. There's a dua, there's a possibly salat, 2 rak'ah and so forth. If the one can go back to some of the books of hadith or dua even mentioned about a'mal of Laylatul Zafaf, or the night of the wedding. So what to do, for example. So the best sources are to go back to these sources and to see if it's the wedding night, of course. There's dua, as I mentioned, to be in wudu and so forth, asking Allah Azza wa Jal for a pure and tahir offspring.
Awesome. Inshallah. Shaykhna, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, me and the Shaykh will be back on Monday at 6:30. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, it can be on any topic. There's nothing too silly or too taboo. It's our duty to get your answers. So if you have a question, send it in via the WhatsApp, send it in via the email address. Alternatively, you can call us in live on Monday night or Tuesday night, and inshallah, me and the Shaykh will be able to answer your questions. So see you back again Monday, inshallah, at 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV 3. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.